Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Now for today's video, this is going to be a very different video for this channel, and starting from this week I am trying a new series on this channel which is going to be called Murder, Mystery and Makeup Mondays. Now this whole series was inspired by the lovely Bailey Sarian, who also does that on her channel every Monday. I'm going to link her channel down in the description. It's something I've actually wanted to do for a long time. I did put a poll up on Instagram, so I'll put the results here of what everyone said. If you don't follow me on Instagram and want to like be on the polls and all the stuff I post on my stories, then that will all be linked down in the description below. But I put a poll on my Instagram to see if it was something that you guys would like to see, and the majority of you that voted on the poll said yes, so that is what I'm going to be doing today. I was going to do it as a kind of trial video and see how it goes, but I think one video might not interest everyone, so I'm going to do it for a whole month. So there'll be 4 videos of the murder mystery series, and if it doesn't kick off, and if... why am I not in focus? Why does it do that? And if it doesn't like kick off, then the series might not go anywhere. But I know quite a lot of you messaged me about it as well and was like, oh my god, I love Bailey Sarah and this would be amazing, blah 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 blah. So that is what we're going to be doing today, and the story we're going to be covering today is the Hall Mills mystery, also known as a stroll down Lover's Lane. I just want to say I'm probably not going to be talking through what I'm doing when I do my makeup, because I want this to be basically more based on the story I'm talking about. I'll link all the products I use down in the description below, and also if there's any kind of stories you guys want me to cover, please let me know. So Edward Hall was born in 1881 in Brooklyn, New York, with middle-class parents, which to me sounds like a typical New Yorker, but I don't know because I don't live in New York, so if you do, let me know. He grew up to be a minister, and he worked in a church in New York and in New Jersey until he was offered a new place at a church called St. John's in 1909, which was located in New Brunswick. And this is where he would meet his new wife, Frances Stevens. So, Frances Stevens, she was born in 1874, and she was an heiress of the Johnson & Johnson surgical supply fortune. Now, I didn't know who Johnson & Johnson surgical supply fortune was. I looked into this. Johnson & Johnson money? Wow. You know. So, Frances also had 2 brothers called Henry and Willie Stevens, and they were worth $2 million each. Now in a lot of articles, Frances was referred to, I shouldn't laugh at this, but a homely looking woman, and I was like, what? And then I just thought that was a bit weird. Imagine being referred to as a homely looking woman. I would take that as an insult, you know, like a homely looking. So Frances wasn't really known for being beautiful, and one reporter said, quote, Frances wasn't fully beautiful but wasn't fully unattractive, end quote. Now if someone said that about me, I would be absolutely fuming. So Edward and Frances married in 1911. Edward was only 30 when they married, and Frances was 37. Now everyone assumed that Edward married Frances because of money, and Johnson & Johnson money, hello, like that is why you would think everyone was like, he's in it for the money, he's in it for the money. Yeah, if you don't know what I'm on about, Johnson & Johnson money, it was a lot. Like, look into it, or I'll just leave the thing that I found out about Johnson & Johnson money. It is a lot. So after Edward and Frances got married, they moved in together, and they moved into Frances's family home, where Frances's brother Willie also lived with them. Which I think is a bit weird. Like, really? Like, why did they not get a house of their own? I don't know, maybe their money was tight, but then she had Johnson & Johnson money, so come on! Like, I was digging into this because I wanted to know, like, really? They were like tight on money? I don't know. Who am I to judge? Now we are going on to talk about James and Eleanor Mills. So James Mills was born on the 27th of January, which is actually the same date as my dad's birthday, in 1878. I couldn't find any photos of him, so I had no idea what he looked like. Sorry, like there's no photos of him anywhere. He worked as a shoemaker until he then took on a cleaning, or in America they call it a janitor's job, at the St. John's Church where Edward actually ministered at. So Eleanor Mills was born in 1888. I couldn't find the date of her birthday, there was nothing of it anywhere. But she was classed as a soprano in the church's choir, and she married James at the age of 15. She married James at the age of 15, and that is quite young to get married. Well, it is now. I don't know if it was back then, if that was kind of a normal thing, because it was like the 1800s they were born, so I'm not sure. But anyway, Eleanor was a prominent member of the church, and she was told to be always, it is said that she was always doing different church activities, such as reading romantic novels. I don't know if that was a church activity, but it's what it said. She basically just spent a lot of time hanging around the church that good old Eddie ministered at, but then her husband also worked there. So Eleanor Mills and James Mills had two children, one named Charlotte that was born in 1906, and the other Daniel, who was born in 1910. Now the Mills lived in a pretty run-down home, and they were tight for money. Like, James didn't really make that much. I think he made about I think it said $35 a week, which isn't that much. Like now, it's nothing now, but back then it wasn't that much. But they had to make do with the money they had. So this is where the story starts to get a little bit juicy. So Eleanor Mills and Edward Hawes, the minister, started to have an affair. Well, at this point the affair was an alleged affair. Now remember, Ed is the minister of the church, and Eleanor works in the choir. I don't know if she works, but she's in the choir, and it was always said that she spent a lot of time at the church, so she's spending quite a lot of time with this Ed guy. It was actually unknown when the affair started, but a lot of the time in 1919 it was said that Ed, we're going to call him Ed and her Elle for short, that Ed would go and see Elle daily, but James and Francis would deny any knowledge of knowing about the affair. But everyone else seemed to know. No, everyone else seemed to know. It was like gossip. It was like town gossip. So you know, like when you're at school and you've got school gossip, it was like that. It was town gossip. Everyone knew except them two, which I find a bit odd. I don't know how big New Brunswick is, but if everyone in that town knows, surely you would know that your partner's having an affair. So on the 14th of September 1922, both Francis and James would find out that Eleanor or Edward had returned home that day. Now it was said they normally returned home around dinner time, so in my head dinner time's 5 or 6. So that's the time they're supposed to return home, and at this point Ed and Elle are nowhere to be seen. So what are they doing then, huh? What are them bloody cheeky Muppets up to, eh? Shouldn't really call them Muppets. But what are they up to? So it's now 2:40 in the morning and they've still not returned home. Would you not think to, I know they didn't have mobile phones back then, but to go see where they were? But no. So Frances and her brother, because remember Frances' brother Willie lives with them, decided that they would go and look for Ed. Now I think they went down to the church. It wasn't clear, but it was like they went down to see Ed, where Ed would be. And I didn't say Ed, it said Edward, but I'm assuming it's the church. They went down to the church, they looked around, and they couldn't see him, so they went home. I'm sorry, but did you really like him? Like, why would your partner, who you're married to, not come home, and you'd go looking for him at 2 o'clock in the morning and he's not there, so you just go home? So on September 16th, which is 2 days later since Ed and Elle disappeared or gone off or somewhere. A young couple were having a stroll down Lovers Lane. Now, Lovers Lane was just a walkway where all the young kids would go and hang out when they were in love and probably make out. But it was basically just a walking area, and in my head, there wasn't really any pictures of it, but in my head I picture it to be just like this little pathway with like fields next to it, because it was said it was like quite an open area, so I'm assuming there was fields around. And Lovers Lane was in Somerset, New Jersey, which wasn't too far from Brunswick, and Ed used to work in New Jersey, if you remember me saying from the start. So this young couple were just going on a walk, all romantic and stuff. And when they're walking, they come across 2 bodies. If I was on a walk with my boyfriend or my lover and I saw 2 bodies, I don't know what the hell I would do. But they saw 2 bodies. And these 2 bodies were found under a crab apple tree. A couple see a man that was handsomely dressed in a dark grey suit. He had a white shirt on and a stiff white collar with a white tie and a hat that had been placed over his head so it looked like it was shielding him from the sun. So next to him, this man laid a lady with her legs crossed and what it looked like her head pillowed on her companion's arm. And it looks like it looked like whoever had put them there had purposely put them there in that position. It was very strange. They were put in a very strange way. So the girl, lady, woman, was wearing a blue polka dotted dress and she had a brown scarf put around her throat. And when the couple, or the 2 people that found the bodies, got closer, they saw that she had been shot 3 times. So this couple that found the bodies, they ran to the nearest house and they knocked on the door and they said, "We found 2 bodies on Lovers Lane, can we use your phone to call the police?" And that is what the couple did. So 2 police officers were at the scene, what it said to be in minutes. Once the police arrived, they removed the scarf from the woman's neck and you could see that her throat had been sliced open and whatever was inside had been ripped out. Sorry if the angle has changed, my camera ran out of storage so I just have to delete a few things. So the police were managed to identify the bodies as Edward Hills and Eleanor Mills. That is actually confusing, their names, I've only just realised that. And that was because the bodies were surrounded by pieces of torn up love letters. Now, I don't know, but I find the story just a little bit dodgy. But yeah, the bodies were surrounded by torn up love letters and there was actually Edward's business card which was left at his feet so the police could tell that it was Edward. Now, from the wound across Elle's neck, they could identify that they had been killed for 24 hours. For years, members of the church had gossiped about the 2 of them having a close relationship, but now it was real because of the love letters that were found. So I still don't get how Francis and James had no idea. I just don't, unless they were having an affair, maybe, you don't know. So I'm back. Sorry, I just went and did the other RF camera and I threw on some lashes, but we're gonna do face makeup. If anyone does want an in-depth tutorial on this, let me know because I'm actually obsessed with it. So anyway, carrying on from where we were, I've written the next bit down because when I was like reading about it, I was like, I'm not gonna remember this. So I have written it down. Right, so police were able to put the letters together that was found around the bodies, and one of the letters was from Eleanor to Edward and it said, "Sweetheart, my true love, I know there are girls with more shapely bodies, but I am not caring what they have. I have the greatest part of all blessings, a noble man's deep, true, eternal love. I want to look up into your dear face for hours as you touch my body close." Now, if that doesn't give away that they're having an affair, I don't know what does. But then this was another letter that he managed to put together from Ed to Eleanor, and Ed wrote, quote, this is all by quote by the way, Darling Wonder Heart, I just want to crush you for 2 hours. I want to see you Friday night alone by our road, where we can let out that universal of joy and happiness we call ours. Sorry, what? If someone said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, those 2 hours you want to see me on Friday? I'm really busy, really sorry. So obviously those letters had confirmed that Eleanor Mills and Edward Hills were actually having an affair. So I still don't understand how the two of them didn't get they were having an affair. It doesn't really make sense to me, but it's pretty clear they were. So the autopsy revealed that Ed was shot at a point blank range with a .32 caliber auto pistol. The bullet had entered his head near the right temple and had come out at the left side. Yeah, the left side. So this story is just getting weirder and weirder. Like, people, whoever it was no accident. Someone did, like, someone wanted those two dead. So Eleanor had also been shot 3 times in the head, and the New York Times reported that she had been shot on her forehead just above the nose, so I'm assuming that's about there, her right cheek, and another bullet had pierced her right temple. So whoever did this, like, what? Because also her neck had been ripped open, and if I like completely, her jugular vein was missing, her windpipe and neck muscles were completely severed, and her backbone could be easily seen. So someone clearly didn't want these two around. Oh, and I know what you're thinking. Because I'm thinking it too. It was clearly their partners, because, not being funny, who else would it be to do something like that? Like, if you were having an affair and you wanted your partner killed, I'm not saying do it, but it's quite like a gruesome way to do it. But obviously, don't worry, because don't forget, Francis and James knew nothing about the affair. But come on, I'm thinking what you're thinking, it's got to have been their partners. Now, the whole Mills case had all the elements. It was dramatic, it involved wealth and sex, and it really just interests everyone. This is kind of why I was interested in it, because there's quite like a lot of elements in this case that's very interesting. So obviously the media got hold of this, and when I mean everyone went crazy, everyone literally went crazy. But also you have to remember it was a different time back then. So like right now, like this wouldn't happen. Like if someone was killed, like it just wouldn't happen like that. So where the bodies were found on Lovers Lane by the crab apple tree, it was turned into a tourist attraction where people were actually visiting it on the weekends, and you just wouldn't get that now because obviously the crime scene would have been closed off and things like that. But no, not then. It was said to have become like a sort of carnival fair type thing, so people were actually there selling soft drinks and cold drinks and stuff like that, and they were selling popcorn, peanuts, and people were even selling balloons. Like, really? People were just really curious about what had happened, so people were going there because they thought they might be able to solve the case, which is a bit odd because obviously people, they didn't solve the case, but it's just weird how people think that they could. I don't know, just my thinking. But it was said to say that over 1,000 cars were there a day. That's crazy to think that there was over 1,000 cars turning up at Lovers Lane a day to go and see. Just how crazy is that? So their ability to solve crime scenes was actually quite difficult back then because they didn't have like all the high-tech stuff we have now, and they also didn't really have the DNA because so many people were obviously at the crime scene, and that's why I think it was quite harder to solve, not just this case, but because this case was quite hard. I don't know if I mentioned at the start, this case is an unsolved case, so this case is unsolved. But yeah, so like this is why this and so many other unsolved cases went unsolved, because they didn't have like the right technology like we do and things like that. So I don't know, it's just a theory. Well, it's not a theory, they didn't really solve many cases, but that's my thinking of, well, if they didn't have all the, where's my brush gone, high-tech stuff we had, then the case didn't get solved, which is kind of upsetting, because I would, if I was killed, I'd really liked someone to find out who killed me, but it was really different back then. So apparently the police initially didn't interview or question James Mills because, quote, he was dull, end quote. And honestly, they honestly thought he had nothing to do with the murders, which I think is stupid, because if someone looks dull, how are they, I don't know, oh, you look dull so you didn't kill anyone. Like, yeah, nice one. So Frances also had an alibi, and she said that she was at home with her maid, and the maid, of course, said yes, she was there. So the police were stuck. The police had no other leads, so they were like, yeah, we're stuck. And you would be, you would literally be like, yeah, we're stuck. So they were. So now a few weeks later, after their bodies had been found, a woman named Jane Gibson, she owned a farm right near Lovers Lane. So it was like a lot of land, and then she would ride her horse like on her land, and then from her land to Lovers Lane. So her farm couldn't have been that far away from Lovers Lane. But on the night of the killing, she reported that she heard gunshots and a woman screaming the name Henry. Who has a brother called Henry? Oh yeah, that's right, Frances. She said that she had believed to see 2 men at the scene and 2 women before the gunshots had been fired. So honestly, the media went crazy for this, and when they got hold of it, and started harassing the poor lady, and they ended up giving her the nickname the Pig Woman, because she owned a hog farm. Now in the media, they were just showing all this upset with her. They were calling her a liar and saying she was lying for attention, and they were just attacking Jane, and it just wasn't very nice for her. Like, it just wasn't a very nice time. Like, she is like, hello, I'm trying to help you here, and you're calling me the Pig Woman and attacking the hell out of me. Like, seriously. Now remember, Frances has 2 brothers, Willie and Henry. And remember what I said before? Yeah, woman heard a Henry name being shouted before the gunshot. So the police then go back to questioning Frances and her brothers, and they actually end up taking them in for questioning, and they go up in front of a grand jury. So, you know, shit's kicking off, mate. It's just going down. But they end up just letting them off for the lack of evidence, because the only evidence they have is from Jane, and like, she doesn't say obviously that she actually saw them. She just said she saw 2 people and someone shout Henry, but it's obvious this was actually dropped, and they let them all go. So for years no one heard anything until 1926. So a man named Arthur. Yep, a man named Arthur. So this man, who was called Arthur, was actually separating from his wife. Well, why is he separating from his wife? The reason is because he said she kept secrets from him, or she was keeping secrets. Now, what sort of secrets was this wife keeping? Arthur's wife was hiding a secret, and apparently she kept a lot, like, she was hiding a lot of secrets, but one of the biggest secrets that she kept, which Arthur took to the authorities, was that she was hiding something about the Hall's Mills murder. Now this lady was the former maid of Frances. Like, come on! If that doesn't say something, it's obvious. It's obvious. So Arthur said that his wife had known that Ed and Elle had planned to elope. So Edward was going to elope with Eleanor. Come on. And she also said that she knew that Willie, which was obviously Frances' brother, had a point caliber, I wrote this down because I couldn't remember what the gun was called, a point caliber .36 pistol. and they'd also paid the maid $5,000 to keep her mouth shut. So the media gets hold of this and they are going wild. And of course this turns into a big story, but the ex-maid comes along and says, no, my husband's lying, he's making it all up, he just wants attention for all of this, it's fake. But at this point it was like way too deep, because after the ex-husband, his statement had been pushed out by the press, so she was just far too gone now. But if this is true, the ex-maid's probably thinking, shit, what do I do now? Because the media picked up on his statement and it went crazy, and the police actually, it's gone dark outside, it was daylight when I was started filming, but the police actually reopened the case. So the police have reopened the case, and the first thing they go and do is they go and re-investigate our good old friend Francis. On the 28th of July 1926, Francis was taken into custody after several hearings involving more than 50 witnesses. A lot of people were just coming forward and saying that they heard something, because they wanted to be a part of the story, and quite a lot of people actually were doing this, because back in those days everyone just wanted to be part of the whole Mills murder, so it was quite big, it was quite a big case. So the jury actually indicted her brother Willie Stevens and Henry Stevens, as well as their cousin, who was also called Henry, which is quite convenient, isn't it? But this cousin was also called Henry, so now there's two Henrys. We have got two Henrys. It's going to be one of them. So they didn't know which Henry it was, so the police brought both the Henrys in. Now Main Street in New York, I think this was in New York, I'm not quite sure where it just said Main Street. So Main Street was the same as the crime scene was. There was people selling refreshments and drinks and things, people selling popcorn, peanuts and balloons all again. So it was that all over again. People were literally doing anything to make money. So if you remember when they found the bodies, sorry, I'm just putting a highlighter on my brush. So when you remember when they found the bodies, that Ed's business card was at the bottom of their feet, so they brought that in for evidence. And prosecutors stated that the card had Willie Stevens, which was Francis's brother, fingerprints all over it. But that same card had been handed around at the crime scene, so when they took the bodies, but they left all of the evidence there. So when people were coming, the bodies were gone obviously, but all the evidence was still there, so the evidence was just getting touched, like people were passing it around and looking at it, so it wasn't the best, but it's what they had to go with. Now remember the pig lady, Jane Gibson, she actually heard something, remember? So they brought her in to testify on the case, but actually Jane was really ill at this time, so do you know what they did? They brought her in a stretcher. They placed her on a stone iron hospital bed in front of the jury. I'll insert a picture like I have been, in front of the jury, and so she could testify while she was ill. She had a nurse and a doctor come with her. Now, during her testimony of the account of the awful murders, her aged mother was there, right at the front row of the testimony, and was shouting and calling her a liar and saying things. But imagine that, you're literally ill on a hospital bed and your mother is in the jury shouting and saying you're a liar. That must just be awful. If you remember rightly though, the media has set up Jane Gibson. They've given her this, they're like, oh, you're evil, like you're evil and you're horrible and you're lying, you just want attention. So they were actually just saying that she wanted attention for this. So that is why obviously people are saying that. So, but I guess it's quite horrible when it comes from your actual mother. So the defence attacked Jane. They attacked her credibility, pointing out that she had a divorce in 1898 for adultery, and they brought up her morals, mentioning the names of a few ex-lovers, trying to discredit her and make her out to be an untrustworthy person, which was actually working at the time. So So then Frances then took the stand, and she stood up there and she swore that her husband Ed was absolutely devoted to her, and there could be nothing going on. So she was basically saying, oh, my husband Ed, he loved me, he like loved me so much, like there was nothing going on. So after over 80 witnesses and 5 hours of deliberation, they found all 4 of them. Remember, there is now a cousin called Henry, there's Francis, Francis's brother Willie Stevens and Henry Stevens, and they were all found not guilty and of the Ed Hall and Elmore's murder, and to this day the case still remains unsolved. So after the trial ended, the Stevens, the Johnson & Johnson's family actually sued 2 press companies, and they were the Daily Mirror and the Evening Journal for slander and liability. No, for slander and libel. But both cases were dealt with outside of court. Many people believe that this case was actually based off the F. Scott's The Great Gatsby, the book. If you didn't know, that was a book that was written 3 years after the murders, and it takes place in 1922. So it's believed that the book is based off this. So this is the end of the unsolved murder of the Hall Mills case. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I think it was Frances and her brothers. There was a lot of evidence. Well, there was not really a lot, but there was quite a bit of evidence pointing to those. So personally, I think that's who it was, but I could be wrong. But personally, that's what I think it was. Anyway, but I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please let me know down below what your thoughts were. Do you like this sort of video? But we're just gonna have a month trial of this video, these sort of videos, and see how it goes. But I love you all very much, and I will see you in next Monday's video.